lenders need to get repossessed cars moved to the auction for remarketing and sale. So what happens when another week goes by before the lender finds out nothing has happened? We've been building a bridge on ATI to help improve remarketing logistics. And tonight, we've got the experts we've been looking for. So say hello in the live chat, make new friends, and learn from the best on ATI Auto Business. What's up, ecosystem? Welcome back to ATI Auto Business, automotive ecosystem, where everyone learns more about the automotive industry. So let's get started with top industry news and headlines that include Lithia cuts jobs and makes acquisitions. Get inside OEM global decision making, and why EV total loss claims are rising. At the quarter hour, we got Dave Sutton. He is VP of Business Development at Montway, and he's going to join us. We're going to pick up the torch, the baton, the purpose of improving the building of the bridge to remarketing logistics that we started a year ago. And then we got a panel, Lenders Moving Repo Cars panel. It's going to be a pretty good show, I think. Actually, I know it's going to be really informative. So do me a favor, stick around for all of that. Let's do this. Before we move on, please do click like and share and copy. Hello, YouTube. Hello, LinkedIn. What's going on, everybody? So this is show 350 in a row on a Tuesday night. Old habits die hard. Now, stay with me. Lenders Moving Repo Cars. As I said, Used Car Week 2023 started a panel discussion on stage, building the bridge for lenders to improve remarketing logistics, and it was a pretty good panel, and had some interesting conversation happening in the audience, which led to some meetings and conversations beyond that day, beyond the stage, beyond the audience, and we are talking about, are we talking about the auctions? Are we talking about the lenders? Are we talking about the full repo lots? Or is it everything? Plus Bruce Willis in a tunnel. Well, it makes you just want to get away from it all, right? So what's the deal? What are we trying to do? Well, we are trying to discuss the difficult process of lenders moving repo cars with outdated systems. To kick us off at the quarter hour, we got Dave Sutton of Montway. He is VP of Business Development. If you know Dave, you know he's got decades of experience. Renee Lowe is with us. This was actually, she's going to tell us more about why she insisted that we stay on this track. She's with Harding Brooks Insurance Agency. We got Vaughn Clemens. He is the president of the American Recovery Association, the ARA. We've got Jordan Sawalka. He is the Director of Operations at ClearPlan. And we also have Brian Russell. He is Vice President at GM Financial. So that is amazing. Thank you all so much. Know your ecosystem. We always say that here on Tuesday nights. And plus the AI takeover happens monthly on Tuesday nights on ATI. In fact, last week we learned a lot from Itai Orr of UVI. If you haven't seen that show, you want to check that out. I cranked out a couple of shorts. And in fact, shout out to Run Buggy, dropped another video edit from their RunBot AI show. That was pretty cool. And on Thursdays on Industry Logistics, we do talk about the transportation community. Here's a short I just dropped about paperwork. That one's doing really well. You should check that out. Dealer calls the auction. Transporter is still denied. We talk about double brokering, fake posts, and yes, the ATI Video Shorts Factory is cranking away. I'll be talking more about that in the coming weeks. But here we go. Let's get into some news. Great, it's 5 minutes after. So, okay, you've heard this. You heard that Lithia is cutting jobs. In Q2, they're hunting for $150 million in annual employee savings. Lithia Senior Director of Finance called the Q2 staff cuts very targeted and more focused on the U.S. than the U.K., seeking to produce an annual savings of $150 million through layoffs and other employee cost savings in this quarter. The layoffs are very targeted rather than across the board. We're not announcing a mass layoff, though. The elimination of $150 million in personnel costs, part of Lithia's desire to eliminate $250 million in selling general administrative expenses on an annual basis. Other savings would arise from cutting inventory and related floor plan and carrying costs, and from reducing the amount spent on third-party service providers. You already knew that, though. Now you have the... It's in writing. Lithia's layoffs will also include leadership changes, though nothing among the senior VP and C-suite executive ranks. Don't worry. These changes are at the store level. And Lithia grows with acquisitions in Memphis, Toronto markets. The Giant Leadership Group added 3 more locations this week with its acquisition of Sunrise Auto Group in Memphis and Woodbridge Hyundai in the Toronto area. Lithia Driveway said the 3 stores are projected to generate over $240 million in annualized revenue, which doesn't that equal what we were just talking about saving? Bringing the company's total year-to-date expected annualized revenue acquired to more than $5.6 billion. LAD operates more than 300 dealerships in the U.S., Canada, and the U.K. Things are going great, I guess. Auction sales so far keep a steady pace over 2023 levels. We compare a year ago. Thank you, Martin. So, yeah, from May 2023, over 540,000 to May 2024, over 600,000, 12% change. All types are up. Car, crossover, pickup, van, luxury car. Sales during the first 5 months of the year reached 2.8 million units, 9% improvement over a year ago's 5-month total. Wow, that's almost 3 million more units going through the auction. And wholesale used vehicle market prices fall below a benchmark level. Major market segments all experienced seasonally adjusted prices that were down year over year. Interesting. OpenLane new format speeds up vehicle wholesaling. The Absolute Sale product puts available wholesale vehicles online for same-day buying and selling. Absolute Sale from OpenLane. Exclusive feature designed to encourage more buyer confidence and visibility while boosting engagement and delivering the highest seller returns. With just the click of a button, sellers can indicate they're committed to selling a vehicle same day, and buyers look to stock their lots can quickly discern who's ready to make a deal. Buyers also save time knowing that if they submit the highest bid, the seller will honor the win and sell that car. That velocity generates results. After activating the feature, sellers have seen sale prices increase by an average of $500, and for vehicles over $20,000 by an average of $1,000. Absolute Sale is available on all dealer-consigned vehicles in OpenLane U.S. Marketplace and can be activated by the seller during the sale day at any time after 9 a.m. Eastern. Forvia CEO raises questions about Mexico, citing high inflation and missing trucks. Mexico is becoming more difficult to do business and as security concerns persist and labor and energy costs rise, says Forvia CEO Patrick Kohler. I'm just reading it. Mexico, long seen as the North American auto industry's low-cost production haven, is becoming more difficult to do business in as security concerns persist and labor and energy costs rise. Corruption and security issues, losing trucks, transporting parts in the region. Inflation is high, labor inflation is high, labor availability is becoming an issue. I have never read that about this place. Forvia sees Chinese automakers following a consumer goods model when it comes to developing EVs, resulting in a proliferation of brands and shorter product life cycles than in other regions. Did you say China? That will force automakers and suppliers to drive costs per vehicle as low as possible and require them to develop new technologies at a much faster pace. We'll have to be pragmatic. The only OEMs that will grow internationally are the Chinese. You have to be in China. See, I said I wouldn't do that. You have to be in Asia, and you have to support the Chinese OEMs and the deployment. Just keep going, Jay. Forvia already has announced plans to cut about 10,000 jobs in Europe over the next 5 years and rely more heavily on artificial intelligence and product development. Well, these guys are covering the globe. We're targeting 50% efficiency gains, which doesn't mean 50% less people, but maybe to do more with the same amount of people, especially in electronics where it's not so simple to find software engineers. Forvia is based in Paris, ranks number 8 on the Automotive News list of world's largest suppliers. Therefore, you might want to listen to them. With global sales to automakers of $26+ billion in 2022, and clearly not afraid to say what he thinks. Like it. Man. Baltimore shipping channel fully reopens. Really? It's really happening. The main shipping channel into Baltimore's port has fully reopened its original depth and width following the March 26 collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge, which blocked most maritime traffic into the harbor. After a massive cleanup effort as crews removed an estimated 50,000 tons of steel and concrete from the Patapsco River. Wow. No wonder it took so long. That's a lot of steel and concrete. And EV total loss claims soar as prices fall. No wonder the EV videos have gotten so fun. As electric vehicle prices fall, total loss claims rise. EV total loss rates have soared 8%. I don't know if that's soaring. Over the previous quarter, and 30%, that's soaring, from Q3 2023 in both the US and Canada since late last year. However, it is also increasing for new gasoline-powered vehicles, which are comparable to EVs in terms of their complexity and cost to repair. What's the difference? Total loss. That said, the report also found several differences between claims for EVs and internal combustion engine vehicles in Q1. Repair labor hours. The average number of mechanical labor hours on estimates for repairable vehicles was nearly twice as high for EVs as it was for vehicles. You know, regular cars like we've had. Claim severity. Average claim severity decreased in Q1, but severity costs were still greater for EVs. Claims frequency. EV sales have slowed, but claims frequency have been growing steadily. You don't want that number. Hide that. Parts utilization and repair. With no strong inventory of aftermarket and recycled parts, EV collision repairs are more likely to include OEM parts. Man, none of that's good. Do the cat videos. Okay. CFPB finalizes rule to monitor repeat offenders. Jeez. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau finalized a rule to establish a registry to detect and deter corporate offenders that have broken consumer laws and are subject to federal, state, or local government or court orders. My golly. The final rule requires covered non-bank companies to register with the CFPB when they have been caught violating consumer law and provide an attestation from a senior executive that the company is not flouting orders. Well, I gotta tell you, I didn't look up attestation, but flouting means to treat with contempt or disregard. NADA cheers bill provision impacting CARS rule implementation. I guess that wasn't so badly timed. The passage of the fiscal year 2025 Financial Services and General Government Appropriations Bill by the House FSGG Appropriations Subcommittee. In the funding bill is a provision that would stop the Federal Trade Commission from implementing or enforcing the vehicle shopping rule, known as the CARS rule, until September 30, 2025. There's your applause. Oh, no, hold the phone. According to a new independent study by the Center for Automotive Research, or CAR, the FTC's final vehicle shopping rule will increase the costs by $24.1 billion over 10 years, which consumers and small business dealers will have to absorb. Check it. Overall, the study found that the mandates of the rule would add 60 to 80 minutes to the car buying process and cost consumers $1.3 billion per year in lost time. There we go. Really? I just get paid to read it. Dissecting Experian's newest data on delinquency. 30-day delinquency balances are up 48 kilobits per second. No. Delinquency percentage of auto loans and leases past due are up. Delinquency percentage of auto loans, but yeah, it's up. We knew that it was up. But here's what we didn't know. Insight just shared this on LinkedIn. Top camera cars most scanned. Wow, this is so amazing. This gamification, and dude, at top spot, Dina has scanned over 30,000 plates. Wow, great job, Insight. My golly, that is a cool post. Oh, hey, actually, this is the final thing. On Tuesday, May 28th, a tragic incident occurred in Travelers Rest. Michael Clarkson, his wife, was found dead in their home. Clarkson was arrested later that day for the murder of his wife, took his own life later in the prison cell. And while ARA does have members in offices throughout the state of South Carolina, the recovery agency owner was not an ARA member, and the information, I guess, went out that an ARA member informed us, the ARA, that he and his recovery agent had been wrongly named in an involvement. This is a mistaken identity case that needs some clarification, so I wanted to share that. I don't fully understand the information either. Maybe Vaughn can help clarify later in the show. Remember, leverage ATI in your business. I don't ship cars. I move information. You can contact me at atiautobusiness.com. You can get the podcast, know your ecosystem, and you know this. And I realize this just shows different. Maybe it's strange. And I've been talking to folks about this lately. There's something weird going on in the media that we all say we want the truth, but there's a lot of media that is just, I don't know. It's not really sharing the good stuff. We're trying to share the good stuff. It's ATI Auto Business. Do me a favor, stick around right after this. Dave Sutton at Montway will be with us. We'll be right back. The evolution of transportation. In the beginning of car shipping, there were stone tablets and woolly mammoths, very primitive vehicle delivery. Then, horse-powered haulers with mile-long paper BOLs causing enormous time hassle and massive stacks of paperwork for dealers, shippers, and carriers. What were we thinking? But now, with modern technology and cell phone mobile apps, simply click a button, order quick, reliable auto transport to pick up and deliver your cars safely and on time. It's instant car shipping at the best market rate. Start saving money today and get signed up. Visit oneauctionview.com.
Are you completely stressed out from all the calls and the contracts and the verifications of loads where nobody ever answers the phone? Call Murphy Auto Dispatch Services today. Murphy Auto Dispatch Services has over 15 years in the transport industry. We are your office while you are on the road. We book, we verify, and we bill out your loads for you. We have an excellent accounting staff and an even better dispatch team. Give us a call today at 417-273-0021, or if you want to email me, it's murphyautotransport31@yahoo.com. Give us a call today.
Need help shipping a car or keeping a carrier loaded? Murphy Auto Transport Services, fully licensed broker, offers professional dispatch services. Visit murphyautotransportservices.com. And Sue is my co-host on Thursday, so you want to tune in for that. All right, do help me wish a warm welcome to Dave Sutton, VP Business Development at Montway. Dave, can you see me and hear me okay?
Everything looks good from here, Jay.
Well, then you got the wrong channel. Right?
Come on.
No, come on.
I'm calling in from lovely Little Rock, Arkansas.
You're in Little Rock?
Yeah, I'm in Little Rock. First time ever.
Wow. How is Little Rock? It's warm?
Yeah, it's warm. It's a very pleasant, friendly city. Yeah,
no, it is a nice place. Do me a favor. For anybody that doesn't know who you are, please say hello and tell us a little bit more about you.
All right, I'm going to try to do it quickly. So first of all, hello. I'm a Detroit guy. I grew up in Detroit, went to college, Central Michigan University, studied business and IT, ended up working for General Motors EDS for 14 years, Did a lot of different things, including product development. Um, Worked for IBM through a consulting group for 5 years, and worked for Volkswagen Credit, where I managed the used car strategy between VW, Audi, and Volkswagen Credit, Audi Financial Services. Then I had the opportunity to manage auction operations for Volkswagen Credit, Audi Financial Services in US and Canada. Then I was at Carfax for a decade, hard to believe, a decade, helping establish data sharing relationships between auctions and wholesale consigners. And then for the past almost 4 years, I've been with Montway Auto Transport. So that's been my journey. It's been a few years since high school, but have enjoyed looking at the automotive industry from a number of different lenses. And I think that's what leads us to the discussion here tonight.
I'm going to say, we've talked several times. I know you've told me that before. Like, I know I've heard that rundown, and I got to tell you, I didn't quite get it all until now. Detroit, GM, IBM, VW Credit, you said Audi Financial, that deal, auction ops, Carfax, Montway. No wonder you have decades of experience. Right?
Yeah,
Wow.
after about a decade, I wear a company out. So it
Wow.
looks like I've got 6 more years with Montway. If track record proves anything.
And I made that little confession because it is hard to get all that people do and know. Because you're
Yeah,
busy, you're thinking
yeah.
about what you want to talk about.
You can attend conferences, you can read books, you can read publications, but until you sat in the chair and had to do the job, I don't think you fully understand that function. And it's through those different perspectives that you might develop a little smidge of insight. And that's, I think, what we're going to talk about tonight, because I'll tell you what, when it comes to repossessed vehicles or recovered vehicles, they are an absolutely essential piece of the automotive industry, or certainly automotive finance. I mean, it happens, and it's sad. Depending upon the portfolio, it could be a voluntary repo. Lots of things happen. Life happens. Could be an involuntary repo. Uh, but but after that happens, what happens to the vehicle? I mean, you need to turn that asset into cash. Um, and as you turn that asset into cash, speed is important, but you have to respect the person who borrowed against the car, give them a chance to redeem if at all possible. That's what the finance companies want to do. Uh, I think it doesn't matter which finance company. They want to keep people in the vehicle if they can. But if they can't, then you get into the whole recovery system, which I will apologize to the industry because I don't think I fully understand it completely, but I've developed a much deeper appreciation of what the recovery agents have to do and and how they do it and what's important to them, what are their priorities. Till I saw a video produced by Vaughn Clemens and some other folks with the Automotive Recovery Association that's like, whoa, that's pretty involved stuff, what they do there. And I have to confess that as a former consignor of Volkswagen Credit, I was most concerned. Top priority was my company cars, promo cars, current model year cars. We need to absolutely get top dollar wholesale value for those cars because they set the watermark for the rest of the lease return cars going forward. Next was lease returns, which made up 90% of what my team dealt with. The very last thing we ever thought about was repossessed vehicles. One, it was a small part of our portfolio. We had credit lending standards that were pretty tough. But basically, our job was just turn that asset into cash, and the customers are responsible for the deficiency. It went to collections, special collections, maybe they recovered or not. But when I look at it today, now that I'm with Montway Auto Transport, we're talking to auctions, we're talking to automotive lenders, we're talking to recovery agents, and we're understanding some of the challenges that they're facing. I realize how oblivious I was. It is the toughest part of the car business, the recovery of a repossessed vehicle, the managing the really fine line between helping that consumer redeem the vehicle if at all possible, working with the finance company, helping manage that, securing their assets that were in the car, And then if indeed they're not going to redeem and the car is going to be sold, to helping that person recover their articles, their personal possessions, their privacy, their security, etc. Having the team that's trained to do that. And then the car goes in the back of the recovery lot, and they're not parked in like at the car dealership. They are resource challenged, land challenged. They're kind of parked tightly in. And then so when the vehicle needs to be transported, often to an auction to be sold, the recovery yard needs some time to pull that vehicle out, reposition, move things around, get it available for pickup. And lo and behold, the piece of equipment that shows up to pick up the vehicle is not appropriate. It doesn't have a winch. It's not a rollback. It's not a tow truck. And so there's so much information that needs to be exchanged real time between all the players at this critical point. And I'll tell you right now, that doesn't happen often enough. And it's frustrating, and it's unnecessary friction in the system. And that's what we're here to talk about, is you have a lot of good companies, a lot of good players in the industry that I think if we put our heads together, have the right conversations, we can become better partners in this fragmented part of the automotive industry.
I couldn't have said it better. So you know what we're going to do? That was perfect, Dave. Really. I got nothing to add. Let's go to commercial. When we come back, we're going to have the rest of our panelists with us. Vaughn, Renee, Brian, Jordan. Stick around. We'll be right back after this.
Auction vCommerce is the universal support solution to help brick-and-mortar auctions respond to the needs of digital buyers and sellers with greater efficiency, accountability, and more access. Auction vCommerce is a bridge between the dealers of the past and the auction of the future.
Transport Auto Quoter is by far the leading auto quoting software on the market, and the only auto quoter with a pro version that comes preset with accurate pricing for anywhere in the U.S. So you don't have to worry about it. The best part is that no change with your current software is needed. Just plug TAQ in and start booking jobs. Carriers can easily plug TAQ into their current websites and start making money right away. I bet you're wondering how we do this instantly and accurately 24/7. Well, constant analytics is the key. Our PriceWatch team is constantly monitoring current market conditions, paying close attention to seasonal and quick-moving industry changes. At the end of the day, it takes a lot of time and data to maintain good pricing, time that most of us just don't have on a daily basis. So free yourself up. Using TAQ Pro is really a no-brainer. Save time and money, maximizing your leads and optimizing your online investments. You'll finally be able to sleep well at night knowing that TAQ is on the job selling for you 24/7. Never missing a potential job.
Don't lose any more sleep worrying about missing leads. Get Transport Auto Quoter to quote the right price the first time, every time. Run your business with TAQ. Visit transportautoquoter.com. Thank you so much, Mark, for making the martinis. In the live chat sure do mean a lot. We have an amazing panel with us here. We have Renee Lowe with Harding Brooks. We have Jordan Sawalka with ClearPlan. Brian Russell, GM Financial. Vaughn Clemens with the ARA. Can everybody see me and hear me okay?
I got you.
Good to go.
Good to go. Awesome. All right. Let's do this. Let's do quick introductions, and then we're going to kind of move into the panel. Brian, I've got you kind of in my first square here, so please say hello and tell us a little bit more about you.
Yeah, sure thing, Jay. Good to be with you guys tonight. So my name's Brian Russell. I'm the VP over our vendor management. Oversee our repo groups and some other outsourcing for our servicing. I've been with the company dating back to the AmeriCredit days. Anybody remember the name AmeriCredit? Yep, I do too. So I've been with the company for about 22 years and have always had some type of focus in the repo space. So good to be with you guys.
Great. Thank you so much, Brian. Jordan, please say hello. Tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. Jordan Sawalka. I'm with Recovery Database Network. I'm Director of Operations for ClearPlan. I've been in the repossession industry since about 2007, and I've worked at RDN for 6 of those years. I manage all of our recovery agents and kind of that network.
Great. Thank you so much, Jordan. Renee, great to see you. Please say hello.
Hi, I'm Renee Lowe. I'm with Harding Brooks. I've been part of the repossession industry on the insurance side for over 20 years.
Oh, thank you so much, Renee. And Vaughn, how are you? Please say hello.
Doing good, Jay. My name is Vaughn Clemens. I'm the president of the American Recovery Association and the president of the ARB out of Houston. And I've been in the business for 39 years this past June 1st.
Wow. All right. We have a lot of experience here. So, excellent. All right. Thank you for that. So, here we are now. Yes, Dave's intro was amazing. Really laid out the complexity of just the beginning of the complexity. But Renee, a year ago, you kind of said to me, hey, we need to do more content-wise, involvement-wise. Why, Renee? What happened?
Because I was on your, I think, dispatching live show with Sue, and I'm sitting there listening to all the reasons why auto transporters did not like picking up cars from repossession lots. And because I see the world from different sides, I realized that we had this real big communication problem going on, because the pain points the auto transporters were talking about, the reasons they didn't want to pick up cars there, were the same pain points the repossessors had, and nobody was talking about it. And I thought it would be pretty simple if we just all came to the table and invited the lenders, because I felt like they held the solution to the problem, and I like to solve problems. So I, started talking to you and Nick, and here we are.
So this is cool. We are now. So Renee, that happened. We then worked hard. We put a panel together. We talked. We were on stage at Used Car Week 2023 in November, about 7 months ago. And in the audience, we're pretty much kind of wrapping up. Brian stands up and starts talking. Dave gives a big shout out and a thanks, because he's passionate about all this. We already know Vaughn and Jordan from previous shows and collaborations. So, and then there was a meeting where lots of people continued to have a conversation. And so we're here now to continue all that. ... Who wants to take the baton? What can we do?
Well, I can start it. I was in that discussion, and last year, especially towards the end of the year, we put a big focus on solving this friction point. I think Dave said it perfectly. This point where point A, the repo agent, and point B, the auction and transport network, come together. And so that's been a focus of ours for a better part of last year. And so when I saw this topic on the agenda, I was anxious to get in to that panel. And then I stumbled in there and heard, all the powers that be that are part of this, I don't want to say problem, but this friction point. You have the insurance agent, you have the repo agent, you have the transporter and the auction, all on the same stage together, sharing ideas. It was just really, really cool to see. So, it just brings up, I think, the age-old battle of Armageddon no one side is wrong or right. It's just the point of friction when handing that vehicle off. And, after the point of repossession, you have 3 hands touching that car. You have the lender's hand, who's wanting to see if we can get the customer back in the vehicle. You have the agent's hand, the repo agent, that has responsibilities and service levels and commitments they have to fulfill. And then you have the auction so it's just this tug of war, and this car is caught in the middle, right? And so anyway, it's just been a big focus of ours the latter part of last year and all this year of how can we make this the less friction points and the smoothest process we can? We move a lot of vehicles through the help of the auction and our repo network.
I can follow up a little bit with what Brian was saying. We saw this writing on the wall probably 3 to 5 years ago. After ClearPlan, we had taken a bunch of comments from front office staff that said, hey, this tool is awesome. We appreciate how many cars it brings in, but 60% of the problems in the repo company are getting the cars off the lot. So that's when we started to really develop ClearData. We include ClearData with any ClearPlan subscription. And essentially what ClearData is doing is making it seamless for transporters, customers, and all of the post-recovery tasks that kind of bog a company down. So maybe more to the the meeting that we have right now. If a transporter wants to upload all of their bill of ladings and documents, they can do that right in ClearData. They can qualify the VIN in ClearData, and then that's going to conveniently come up on the agent's calendar for an appointment for that day. A lot of the transport issues I think that we see are from non-ClearData agents because of the way it lines out your day as far as what the future looks like. Repo companies do take a lot of those calls. They don't even need to take calls anymore. The transporters don't need to call in. Everything is done digitally. So on the RDN side, we look really forward to working with our lenders and seeing whatever solutions they want to come up with, and we're willing to accommodate that. So ClearData is already out there on the agent side, and kind of whatever we need to do on the lender side, we will do to make the process a little bit smoother.
Yeah, and kind of piggybacking off what Renee said, Jay, I think it's important that we give a shout out to you for putting the transporters and recovery agents together. I think this was Renee's doing when I had my first call with you about a year or so ago. It's this type of collaboration that's needed to offer solutions. We're in a crisis, and we're all facing, to Brian's point, we're all facing this like tug of war. There has been some movement towards change, but it's not enough. You got some clients out there like Ally, who's allowing the agent to have the first right of refusal. So if they want to move the car off their lot, they can move it. It speeds up the process. But this is a huge problem, and a lot of it has to do with us trying to do old things or pay for old things with new ways. And the new ways we're doing things is costly. And to Brian's point, yes, there's a meeting in the middle. Everybody has their hands on this. But the goal for us today is maybe someone that's listening to this call will hear something and offer up some solutions to mitigate the risk, the problems that we face in this industry.
I think that's well said, Vaughn. I think it's really time that everyone has to rethink the model, right? You can't just keep rolling on the same wheels you've been rolling on for 20 years. Like, something has to be rethought, and volumes are increasing, month over month. Lot space is getting more precious. The auction channels are overwhelmed, right? And a lot of the lenders are relying solely on the auctions to move these things. So I think it's time that we rethink what other avenues are open for transporting, be it the repo agents being allowed to transport, and that's something we're looking into. But the problem is the auction selection for some lenders. Like we do business in 50 states. We have about 40 auction sites that we work with. So that's not, that doesn't always work. So to balance that side of it, could you look at introducing some third-party transport options that are in the market, and then letting the auction maybe fill in the rest, and giving some relief to some of the channels that are already overwhelmed. But one thing to also keep in mind, especially with the introduction of compliance and the CFPB and all this oversight to the space, really hasn't touched the transporter more than it has touched the repo agent, right? So the cost of and the burden of this compliance and leveling up, if there's, lack of a better word, the leveling up of our the space, the industry, when it comes to the repo side, there's better equipment that they had to get. There's more training that they have to do. There's more certifications they have to go through, and all of that has a cost and a burden. on their end. I think we also have to look at the transporters. Jay mentioned it, and Dave, that in their kick around, that sometimes they show up and they don't have the right equipment. So how do we level up the standard on the transporter side too, right? But with that is going to come some added cost as well. So something that we have to just go in with eyes wide open, that we really need to rethink this model all the way around.
So Brian, to your point, and kind of to the conversation when you answered my question at Used Car Week, part of that could be solved with the transporter showing up with the wrong equipment. And if they're not using clear data, if they're on that little outside edge, and I know, you cannot speak for all clients, but if lenders would set standards for transporters to even 50% of what they require of repossessors, and say you cannot come in a U-Haul truck with a dolly to transport my car to the auction after the repossessor has, had to have it on a rollback and, got direct primary on hook coverage. And then all of a sudden it kind of like, doesn't matter if the car gets dropped off a cliff somewhere, So standards for everybody is important. And I don't know why that's never happened. But I think that if transporters, and I know they don't want to hear that, and I know it does cost money, but that would make the wheels turn a lot smoother if repossessors didn't have to worry about some U-Haul with a dolly attached to it showing up at their lot.
I'm going to jump in. So I will say this. I have never been able to talk to a company that posts many repo loads about the way they post them. As a former dispatcher, and I've booked a lot of repo loads, I can name the companies that post a lot of repo loads, and I've never been able to sit down with any of them and say, here's a problem with the way you posted this. Here's a problem with the way you posted that. I don't know if they don't want to hear it, but I'm telling you, I've made phone calls trying to talk to somebody. Listen, the driver just went to pick this up, and the driver's not the problem. This load is messed up. I talked to the repo agency, I talked to the transporter, and I'm dying to talk to somebody in operations at your click. Okay. So it's not always the transporter.
But if there was a contract in place saying that this is what was required, like in the contracts the repossessors have with the clients, then some of that bad information on the loads wouldn't be there because they would have certain requirements.
Well, and that could be true. I mean, that's the thing. There's problems really on all sides, it seems. And that's I think, isn't that kind of where we're at, is that everybody shares part of the problem?
I agree. I think it's everyone contributes in their own way, positive and negative. The systems, also an RDN is a major player, household name in the industry. We've had some recent conversations with them working on some innovative ideas and new modules of, how to give better green lights for, that inventory queuing up and being ready to go. Name in the industry. So again, it's just, there's so much noise in this post repo, that 5, 10, 15-day window, that we got to get the systems talking. We need to get the right hand and the left hand, A and B points talking. It's not going to be solved overnight, but I just love the conversation. I'm here for it. And it's much further than we were, this time last year. So like I said, it's not going to be solved overnight, but man, I'm excited in the direction it's going.
You guys are right. You already lost my bet. I'm in here jumping around, talking, throwing punches. I want to say this. The notes that Dave, you did an amazing job of keeping notes. And right now, it seems like we have to figure out a way to organize these problems and symptoms.
Yes, so that could be a major outcome of tonight's discussion, because a lot of people watch it live. I think more people watch the recorded shows. And I would encourage anybody watching this, from whatever perspective you have from your company, if you have some ideas of what makes it better, please, share those with anybody on this panel. Target them at Jay. Look forward to Used Car Week. We're going to have some more discussions. I've offered up the Montway Suite for round 2, solution oriented. Be better to have it in a big general session if we can do that with Used Car Week, but it doesn't have to be one or the other. But the key is to recognize that, as a former consignor, I was one of the first guys back in the day with Dan Heinrich, when he was with AmeriCredit before GM Financial, where we were like, what's your days to pick up? What's your days to sale? And we were totally on those metrics, and we were complete jackasses about it. I mean, in a good way. We were like saying, no, we need to measure our performance. We need to keep these vehicles moving. The smart consigners said, okay, I have a different category for my company cars because that's dealing with different pickup locations, different pedigree of vehicles. I have a different criteria and standards for my lease return cars. And I even had different criteria for different regions of the country, just because we knew different regions of the country. If you're in Manhattan, if you have a lease return car that's there for more than 48 hours, that's a huge problem. You need to get it off that property and get it moving quickly. When it came to recover to repossess units, that wasn't an area that we focused on a whole lot. But if you look at the different types of consigners, you think about it, you may say, okay, if a vehicle is recovered and if it's not redeemed, what's the average days to pick up, or what's the pickup days? Well, it's one thing if you have an auction down the road 10 miles, that car should be picked up that day or the next day, the soonest available date. And the auction should know that quicker is always better. You don't have 5 days to pick up that car. You have 1 or 2 days, because for every one of those cars, you're going to have 1 or 2 cars that's 150 to 200 miles away. And then those typically would go to an outside carrier or a broker such as Montway or one of our great competitors. And now we've got to work with a carrier to try to get that carrier at that lot on the right day, at the right time, with the right piece of equipment to pick up that car. It's not that we don't want to do it. It's difficult to do that sometimes. And then,
David, do you think that we're in a race to the bottom here? Because really, when you think about it, the cost to pick up these cars, and I'm looking from the transporter's point of view, they're paying them the same amount they were paying them 20 years ago. Is it worth it for a guy who's transporting vehicles to come to a repo yard, have to deal with all the setting of the appointment and things of that nature, or opposed to just go and pick up new vehicles somewhere where they can just go in and out? Is there a race to the bottom? Do you guys actually look for quicker, or do you look for cheaper? And that may be the problem why we're getting so many people in there with the shoddy equipment.
Well, you bring up a good point, because if the whoever hauls a car needs to make a fair margin on the car for their time, and their time is increased if they don't have all the information about the availability of the car by day and time window, and so they've got to slow down, stop, delay, etc. So those are the least profitable cars to move, for sure. And then that brings in the potential for more transporters without the right equipment, without the right insurance coverage, etc. And it does open the lenders up for potential problems with those cars. So yeah, I think the race to the bottom, and those are strong words. I'm kind of like, I'm cringing when I hear that.
Right.
But I think you might be right.
It feels right.
It feels right.
Mm-hmm.
And so the challenge is, when you look at recovered units, we need to segment them. I really think, how close are they to where they're going to be sold? Yeah. And if it's close, you can treat them a different way. You can pick them up, the auction can pick them up, or the recovery agent can drop them off. That's great. But having managed a group of, I think when I was with Volkswagen Credit, we had 26 auctions we sold at. Those were the only auctions we sold at. And so if we recovered a unit, we had to move it a long ways. We just didn't do that as efficiently. Mm-hmm. So each lender has to look at, what's your overall remarketing strategy, and do you have a sub-strategy for how you handle your recovered units? Because my guess is they've been mixing them in for all the other units that they sell, and that's probably not the right way to do it. They need to look at a secondary group of auctions who are closer, that the vehicles can be picked up, dropped off by the recovery agent or by the auctions, because most auctions have rollbacks, they have tow trucks, they have equipment. And to haul a recovered unit over a long distance, I don't think makes sense for anybody.
Yeah. Jordan, you had something?
Yeah, I mean, Vaughn, kind of to speak to your point, when I was still running my repo company at the time, there was a local transporter that was based out of Arizona, and they always had brand new equipment, brand new 10-car haulers. I might not know that much about that segment, but I know about the cost of equipment because of repossessing cars. And I noticed they came to the lot one day. And I'm not kidding. They usually do OEM carry for Toyota. They lasted 2 weeks coming to the lot. And I saw one of the drivers later at auction dropping off lease returns. I'm like, what happened? He was like, it didn't pay enough. It was honestly just a terrible experience. 360, he listed a bunch of stuff, right? But, to Dave's point, and to Vaughn's point, you almost are better off just taking the higher margin work from better paying clients than having that. And it's kind of like you start to get what you pay for, in my observation, on the agent side of the house, right? And I know that's a much broader problem, but I do see that, and I did see it. And even speaking to agents, and Dave, to your point, if the auction's 7 miles away, maybe just give the roofer to that agent to move the car himself. They have 15 tow trucks leaving their yard every 24 hours, Why are they not loading up a car and taking it to auction? It really solves the transport crisis for so many people at that point in time. And it's not like it's taking anything away from transport, because once that car sells, it needs to go to the new buyer. So I think it still feeds the ecosystem the same way, but it does solve a lot of the repo transport problems we see. Maybe short distance, not the 150-mile treks. I don't think a lot of agents want to do that,
Hey, Dave, so I'm sorry to keep picking on you, but a question for you. What happens when a transporter does everything right? He gets to a repo yard, and for some reason that was maybe unknowns to the agent and the transporter, he can't load that vehicle. Is there any offering of a dry run fee? Are they able to, you don't get paid unless you tow, haul? Those type of things I think we need to look at.
Yeah, typically there's not a dry run fee. And it brings to the question of who's responsible to qualify the unit that is ready to transport. I mean, it's like one of those things where everyone wants to push it to everyone else, but typically it gets pushed to who's ever going to transport the vehicle, because they're the ones who risk the dry run fee.
Yeah.
But one could argue perhaps it's the lender who should be responsible for giving the green light, because they're the ones who are working with the recovery agents. They're the ones who, it's their asset that they're remarketing, that they should be the ones ultimately say, this car is good to go. But somehow that's been shifted to in many cases, to the transportation provider to then kind of jump in, work with Jordan and Jordan's colleagues, try to get the information that way, or still calling, trying to qualify it, making sure that it runs, brakes, steers, can be loaded, etc. There's a lot of old habits that, as Jay said in his promo, died.
It was your idea. You was your idea, and
Yeah,
then
but
I
it was
added the
your
Die
graphic.
Hard.
It was your graphic.
It was a collaborative effort. Another win. All right, that's fine. The thing is, so this is the transport piece. And by the way, Jordan, I agree with you. I think if the agent can haul it and take care of it, it doesn't hurt anybody's feelings, and it gets it done. That actually, the more I've learned about recovery agents that have car hauler setups and move the units, I think that's probably one of the best solutions. They know the business. They're ready to go. Just go. Yeah, just take it.
You had a lot of agents too with COVID, with recovery volume being so low, really pivoted to transport, working with companies like Montway and all the other brokers that are out there, right? So I think a lot of them are prepared to even move some of those cars. They have more rollbacks than they've ever had, more 4-car haulers than they ever had.
Yeah, and just to throw in, whether it's with Montway or another broker, those agents who have equipment, they're carriers that could work with a multitude of brokers, and they can make those assets work and earn revenue 24/7 if they've got the drivers.
Yeah, but you have a lot of auctions since COVID, they shut down at 10 o'clock at night. So you can't have that round the clock dropping of vehicles like you used to. So therein lies a problem for the agent who's trying to continue to move cars at 2 o'clock in the morning.
No, you're right. And I think one of the action items for folks watching this, and I'll get kind of maybe scolded at the next NAAA auction event, is the auctions need to have ongoing dialogue. They should know within the radius all those recovery agents, all those recovery yards. There should be great dialogue going on, great relationships going on, so that's going to soothe a lot of the friction in this process. And I don't know, do you guys sense that happens or doesn't happen, or it's touch and go? Depends on the area of the country.
It's a touch and go. It's a touch and go.
Jay's trying to stay quiet in this next piece.
I was trying.
I could see him biting his tongue.
I know, but I feel the need to jump in. I was looking at some of the notes that we were talking about too. Is that I guess we kind of covered the agent. Did we cover agent first, third party second, auction third? Brian, was that?
That's kind of the model that I think you have to look at. Right now everyone is squatting in this auction lane, right? And just allowing the auction to, just all that volume, all that's churning through the auction, managing it through their networks. And they've done good historically. I mean, it is what it is, but I think agent would be the first step, then maybe a third party transporter auction combination there. And so right now, that to me, that seems like the right model. We're working through that internally, proving that out. But right now it's upside down. The industry's volume is increasing. All of it is triple loaded on the auction. So I think we have to start picking that apart and even if you get 30% of the way winning with an agent doing the transport for you, or some that's just a little bit load off of the auction that exists today. So ultimately, we want all these vehicles going to the same place, getting remarketing, getting sold, get the dollars back in, where they belong. But we just got to figure out a better way to get there.
We're raising problems. We want to get to solutions. Does anybody have just a hard solution, tough medicine to share right now? I know that's tough.
Do you really want to hear it?
Chill out, Vaughn.
Yes.
I was going to say, chill out, Vaughn.
This is Repo. Let's go.
Say it.
And he
Vaughn.
doesn't have his hammer anymore.
I don't. I gave
And
it
he
up.
doesn't even have his bell anymore. That's so boring
no
without
bell,
the bell.
no hammer, no mask.
Jay,
Huh?
I have to tell you, it's all about the rates. We have to find a way, and Brian, you alluded to this earlier. We have to find the right medicine to this ill. And the problem is you got folks that are spending money, kind of going back, Dave, to our back and forth on dry run fees. You got to find a way to satisfy these guys who are spending revenue, and they come up with a goose egg. And you do 50 of those a month, you're at a deficit, and there's no way to recoup those costs. So maybe you factor in the costs into the ones that are successful for the ones they miss. But if you want to look for solutions, we got to do things differently. And it starts with raising the rates and making it fair and equitable. It's got to be a fair profit for everybody.
So I agree, and I want to say this. Then I want to say, I really, man, I'm fine with having enough time in the day and weekends and whatever. What I'm saying is, there are companies right now that are experiencing crazy pushback on the loads they're posting. The managers may not know. The dispatchers know. And if one of those companies wants to talk to me and show me some of these, I'm telling you, I can't believe the way it's not just the rates. The rates might be fine. They got me to call and book it. It's the garbage being posted. It's not. Why can't the driver pick up the car? Maybe it's his equipment. And this is where Jordan, on the clear data,
Yeah.
on the software, what I wonder is how many transporters know how much your software will help them. I actually don't know how many transporters know about it.
Yeah, so to any transporters listening, or they're going to watch this again, the software is free. We included in our, almost every recovery agent in the country is using ClearPlan. It is included with ClearPlan. So anybody watching, feel free to talk to those repo companies not using it. We'll give them a demo. We'll get them signed onto the system. But a lot of the issues that are problematic do get solved. And I don't want to just sound like I'm selling the software. I mean, I know that's my job, but a lot of the problems with an unbiased point of view do get solved with technology. And we do have a lot of that technology in place right now. You know, we want both sides to use it, though. And I think we do need to have more recovery agents on it. But I think that transporters and recovery agents have the same commonality, is that, man, they just get stuck in their ways of doing stuff. And I had some drag out fights with agents back in the day, getting them on ClearPlan. And now that they're on it, they cannot live without it. And I know that's the same. It's the same thing with ClearData. You know, we've had office managers fight us kind of on it. They had their protocols that they were using, but once they're on the software, they can't live without it. And we include it for free. And a lot of the reason we include it for free is, to everyone's point on this call, it has been a struggle with rates for a long time. And the last thing we really wanted to do is take margin out of anyone's pocket. The transporter for having that digital capability, and the agent for organizing their life post-recovery.
Back to rates, though, I want to say this, Vaughn, is that I agree. I'm always pushing for higher rates. Nobody ever says, I got a repo! Never. Nobody ever says that.
Sometimes the repo guys don't say that. You know?
Wouldn't it be amazing if it was so valued? And Dave, to your point, maybe there is more money there in the financial outlay to remarket, to recover, to get it done quickly. What if there was another 10%, 20% that the rate could be raised automatically, so it doesn't have to wait a week? This is one of the things I was getting at when I was booking dispatches. I don't know how many times I got a dispatch that said, has to be picked up by the 18th. I'm like, it's already the 23rd. What do you mean? And it would happen over and over, so there was no sense of urgency, which is usually a reflection of the rate.
I think part of it, too, is we just need to have people in the system a little bit better educated, because there are some lanes, some regions of the country that, like, to pick up a vehicle within 2 or 3 days is completely rational and reasonable. But there's other areas of the country that are off the beaten path. And in 2 or 3 days, it's never going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And so you have to manage your business by segments. Whether you're a lender or transporter, you need to be flexible. Any national rules, anything it's 5 days or fewer, we need to just get a little bit smarter as an industry and say that's the average. So some vehicles 1 or 2 days, some vehicles maybe 10 days. But believe me, we've talked to a lot of auctions who feel like they're going to get absolutely hammered by a lender if the vehicle's not picked up within 5 days. But if you talk to the lender, there's like, no, that's our average. Average days to pick up should be this or lower. And so there's a couple ways to deal with that. And we need to educate the auctions, the ones that you can pick up quickly or have dropped off by the recovery agent quickly. The bigger and the broader your auction network is, you're going to do better on that metric. We just need to get smarter about that. And as a former consigner, I can tell you, I spent zero amount of time educating people. I just said, no, it's days to pick up is 5 days, period. And we didn't do a really good job at segmenting. And I hope that the lenders are going to start doing that now if they haven't already, because it's not fair to the auctions who are dealing with much more remote locations, much more remote regions. And it also lets people off the hook saying it's 5 days pickup, but it's 10 miles down the road. That should be 1 day pickup. Free up that spot in that recovery lot. Let that recovery agent bring it in. We just need to get more sophisticated as an industry as a whole in move, make them move quickly. And if you have the data to make it move, ideally, I think the data to make it move should come from the lender, saying this vehicle is available for pickup or transport. But somehow that gets pushed down the stream, ultimately to the carrier who's going to pick up the vehicle, who sometimes they're going to show up with the wrong equipment, and we dummy down, and we should get just better as an industry, a little bit more sophisticated. And those who do a great job, I would love to see. I know a lot of the consigners over the years have been around the industry for a while. They give different awards. Let's start seeing rewards for who's handling the repos the best. That would be a really nice way to illuminate best practices.
So I want to say on the education piece is that, so for the lender and for the auction, I know some auctions have inside transportation departments. We know that brokers that post loads that are repo loads, they might have a carrier relations department, or at least the data of, hey, these are the carriers that might be most likely to pick this up. But is there any proactive, whether auction or broker, is there any proactive program? Let's work on this group of transporters that seem most likely, either have done it in the past, got the right equipment. Let's work with them more proactively to turn them into the service providers to move these vehicles. It seems like in the race to the bottom, there's just more reliance on somebody randomly picking it up for maybe this random number that we just randomly put out.
Yeah, I think the auctions have a surprising number of pieces of equipment they're very appropriate for this. They're tow trucks, they're rollbacks. I think the recovery agents have a huge number of pieces of equipment that could do this safely and efficiently. And I think we just need to tap into those two sources. I think that's going to solve a lot of problems. It'll free up maybe some real estate on the recovery agents' yards. It would allow the recovery agents to make more money. It would allow the auctions to make more money if they're not expected to transport these for free. And that allows other carriers or other brokers like Montway and our awesome competitors to play in the space that the others don't play well. The key is you need to know what you're really good at and what role you fill. And right now, I don't think that's clear for the transporters when it comes to repossessed vehicles.
Yeah. I don't know if there's enough incentive for a transporter to want to come to a repo yard. And maybe that's what we're missing, Dave, is some type of incentivization, and not an award, but more money.
It could be something like just a surcharge, because there is extra work to qualify the vehicle. There is extra work to have it there on certain days and certain time windows. Yeah. So that might be something that we as an industry and this end of the industry need to consider. And as more of us consider it, we start doing it, it's going to, if you're charging for it, you're going to be sending the right equipment. And you're not going to have the dry run fees. You're not going to have that irritation in the system. And when we talk about a premium for vehicles that are moved from recovery yards, that premium should apply for the recovery agents. That premium should apply for the auctions that move that car. That premium should apply for carriers or brokers that help move those vehicles.
That was one of the reasons that really premier transport companies stopped doing repos as well. As I said, the pay was considerably less than their other moves that they were doing, And I think everyone on this call would love to give everybody a raise. I should just say that, I just think those decisions.
That's the thing, isn't it? Right? That is the problem about talking about rates, is because who couldn't use a 5 to 10% bump?
Well, and I was at a Forwarder conference, probably about 2017, and rates was just being brought up. So there was a bunch of large direct lenders that were in the room, and a blue chip lender. He was really polite. I had never seen him, so he's clearly a guy that's maybe another floor above. And he said, "Listen, all I hear is people talking about the rates. That's all I'm hearing, and you're all still taking the work. So I can't go to my boss and my boss's boss to talk about rates because everyone is still accepting the work." And that was just such a prolific thing because he was right. No one wanted to hear it at the time. And I think that's really a big part of the problem. And that's more of my personal opinion. But
It's not the people in the room that were taking the rates for that work, though. Somebody should have raised their hand and said that.
Yeah, I mean, but I see.
It's not 100% true, but it is true.
Well, in that room, it is true, right? Because you have the repo managers, you have the agents, and then you have the forwarders, all on like kind of an even playing field. And I just think sometimes it's uncomfortable conversations with your business partners, and those conversations aren't easy to have. It's not easy for me to go to the agent network and say, "Hey, bad news, the rates look like this, and this is what we're going to have to charge." They're not fun, but sometimes they need to happen. And I really do think the transport side of the repossession, and I'm speaking to my world, is really, it is struggling because to Dave's point, it's hard to get transporters out there and it's hard to book those loads, and they would much rather go to an AutoNation dealer where there's 35 cars sitting on the lot and they know the back lot guy and they can just grab 10 keys and load up their car hauler and get the hell down the road.
That's the gravy work for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So the question is, for the other stuff, is there an appropriate fee that is you could define? Because when it comes to remarketing and getting things funded and having worked with a team, we were selling $2 billion worth of cars a year, my little auction team with Volkswagen Credit. $2 billion is crazy money. But if you look at that, when it came to the recovered units, the repossessed units, it was all about mitigating the losses. And so to get extra money to do anything for those cars was nearly impossible, because we weren't generating any revenue. It doesn't meet any of those other criteria. But you do have to realize that the formula is difficult, because it's like, let's say you have a vehicle that the customer owes $20,000. You're going to recover the unit. You're going to sell it for $15,000. Best case scenario, maybe. Now you got a $5,000 deficiency. Any money that you spend extra increases that deficiency. It really does. And so there's some economics that come into play here that says, but if I spend the extra money, am I going to sell it faster? And now that we're back to normal times where cars are depreciating again, maybe that makes more sense. Or maybe based upon the vehicle category, there's a greater willingness to pay for it. But if it's a buy here, pay here car, there's probably not a premium that's going to be paid for it, because those cars don't depreciate. They're just kind of level as far as their value goes.
So what you just said, if there was a way, we're talking about education. If a carrier could know something to that effect quickly about this car, because I will tell you as the dispatcher, the guy's saying, I'll go get it, but it's $100 for me to get my winch going, which is going to be required to pick up the car. And I'm thinking, they're not going to agree to $100 just for you to get your winch going. They're not. And I'm trying to understand the finances of the car, like you just said. This is where that education, how in the world do we explain, where's the interpretation of this problem?
Well, Jay, for a guy with a truck, he doesn't really care. He only cares what it costs him.
That's a really good point.
So, who cares what it costs you, what you're making?
Thanks a lot, Jay. 25K.
What does it cost me to go out there and pick up this unit? And I think those are tough conversations we're going to have. Someone else other than the bottom feeder, which is the bootleg, the transporter, the boots on the ground, is going to have to take a loss. So what's happening now is the guy who won't do it for $100, you'll find someone else to do it for $75. And that's what I mean when I say the race to the bottom. The industry has always been, if you don't do it, I'll find someone else who's stupid enough to do it. And therein entails we have no standards. To Brian's point, transporters don't, and I'm not saying this against all transporters, but they don't have to face the same standards that the recovery agencies do to pick up these units. So you can get a guy who has a truck and has maybe the minimum amount of insurance, he can go out and get that car for $75. And then everybody's happy. But the ecosystem is suffering at the end of the day.
Right. And that guy and I like the way you said, was stupid enough to do it. I think that's something that, man, if that was said in conference rooms, it would chase people away. Yeah. But that's the kind of talk that we're talking about. Well, that guy that was stupid enough to do it, then shows up at the yard, I'm guessing, and starts telling people, you need to load this car on my truck. Right? That's how that happened. Because he didn't know how this works. He just booked a load. And I've been in that too. The first time I booked a repo unit, I had no idea what went on at a repossession lot. I didn't know. There's nobody to tell you. The dispatch sheet says what it says, but you know. Yeah, it's happening right now. Actually, well, maybe not at 8:15, but it'll happen tomorrow morning for sure.
So, Jay, what do you think from the dispatcher seat? What's the solution?
So, thank you. Number one. All right, number one is the rate probably does need to be better. But here's the thing about rates. It's like fishing. Yeah, everybody's going to scurry to that rate. You're going to get good, you're going to get bad, because everybody's like, man, that rate's awesome. Which is where I think that when in the dispatch, it really would behoove whoever has this dispatch, look at, if there's a way to look at who already runs in that lane, is there any way we can look at our database and offer this load to somebody we know and trust? Yeah. How can this be the first time we're doing a repo here?
Well, the challenge is you can always direct dispatch to guys that you know run that lane who have the right equipment. But if they're running it to kind of fill their day or fill their week or whatever, that's not their primary spot that they want to be at. They'd rather be making more money with their equipment. Where they don't have to work around all those impairments of scheduling, things like that. But I think you're right. Is in a perfect world, you direct dispatch the vehicles that need to be picked up from recovery yards. You're direct dispatching it to carriers who have proven that they know how to behave, they know the rules, they know the right equipment, and then you can pay them fairly. That would be the nirvana, I think.
And within that thought, thank you, Dave, is that the part of what's happened with the way loads are posted is it's just random, whoever can get it, make the money, we'll make this money, and that's not serving the marketplace. Brokers that have lots of loads, and I know I say broker and someone can say asset light carrier, same difference. Companies that have a lot of loads would do better by the marketplace to help build lanes for carriers. They've been doing this for years, if not decades. Don't they know carriers and be able to talk to carriers to help develop lanes? I mean, as a dispatcher, my job was to help a carrier develop a lane. Can't that happen in reverse from the company that has all these loads? It's a question, but it seems like that would make some sense. But that's not how we're set up. And it doesn't have to happen with the guy with the used cars, man, no problem. But repo lanes need to be developed.
What about if we as carriers or brokers, we reached out to recovery lots, to Vaughn and his colleagues across the industry and said, who are the carriers who do a good job at your location? Who, when they come in, they know what's what, they know how to behave, they know the right equipment, because we want to make them part of our carrier network when we're being asked to pick up cars at your yard.
That's a great idea.
Who are those guys?
Great idea. That's a great idea. We know who they are. Just as well as we know the bad actors. We know
exactly. So it's almost like the corollaries develop also a KO book where the guys avoid these guys, select these guys.
Yeah.
And I think that's something we could work with your organization, Vaughn. I think you guys are well positioned to know who those players are, who the guys who do well, and we reward them because whether it's with Montway or other brokerages, we know the guys to reach out to direct dispatch. If you direct dispatch, you know you're going to guys who are, qualified and I guess they're the right pedigree to operate from your lots. I think that could be a major takeaway. I did not come into this evening with that idea in my mind, but through this discussion, a little bit of collaboration, it's amazing. And I think we just need to keep pushing on that stuff. But I will tell you this, that I'm going to take that idea back to my upper management at Montway and say, look, guys, we need to get closer to the recovery industry. And if we're having problems with picking up repossessed or recovered units, guess what? We got a solution. Talk to those yards and direct dispatch to the carriers that they recommend. And sometimes they're going to recommend themselves.
Yes. It's a great idea.
It is a great idea.
Excellent idea.
And I think that there are several companies that are looking at different markets. I'll just say Acertus. Here we go. Acertus had an acquisition of RCG Logistics, and I think they're now closer to the repo space, right? Agreed? So I think there are other companies making moves to get closer as well. But in that getting closer, yeah, are they developing repo lanes with carriers? And that'd be wonderful. And I think that it can go beyond, though, just who ends up with the load. In that, just knowing that the guy wants $100 to get out his winch, that could be taped on the wall at every lending institution. I bet that's news. Really, $100? I thought it was 15. What's it $100 for? Why?
Yeah.
It's maintenance of the equipment, which gets into, that's a thing that the carriers talk about all the time. Maintaining this equipment, and then they'll talk about the chuck holes at a repo yard or setting appointments or all that stuff. I mean, what happens really get in the weeds.
What happens, Jay, is that just comes off as complaining, and that's not really the case. These guys have legitimate beefs, but. Kind of going back to Dave's point, we have to have collaboration. You come up with ideas through conversation. Dave, you got one you can take back to your upper management. We have to start talking to figure out what the real true problems are so we can solve it. And I'm going to always say, rates matter. Rates matter.
Well, Devon's point about the rates, I mean, I know the repo rates are still the same in many cases as they were 20 years ago, right, Vaughn?
Yes, ma'am.
And they're starting to increase in some places.
Yeah.
But it costs a whole lot more to buy a truck today than it did 10 years ago. So The auto transporters got to have the same problem. I imagine they're getting paid the same rate to transport a car off a repo lot that they did 10, 15 years ago. So, I mean, everything else in the world has gone up, but repo rates and I assume transport rates have not. And communication. I mean, I think it's awesome that we're having Jay. Thank you so much, because we are having communication. We are talking in all kind of different verticals here, and we are coming up with ideas. And that was my whole vision, was to talk and come up with some ideas and to put it to action and make some changes.
Yes. I agree.
I will say that I've been energized by this group. I mean, Brian, when you talk about your role with your company and the challenges you guys face, it really takes me back, because I think about the fact I managed auction operations for Volkswagen Credit. I had my blinders on. I wasn't involved in the whole servicing the account or any of the other stuff. And the way things were so compartmentalized, I didn't realize about repos or collections or any of those stuff until it was assigned to me. Then I'm in the game. Then I worry about it. And I think there might be some opportunities within some of the automotive lending companies to maybe open that up a little bit. Not that they have to do the work, but they have to understand what's happening in the other areas, how things could happen, how it could be better, because your awareness of the industry is outstanding. I would like to believe that that's true for the people in the adjacent departments, but I would bet not.
Yeah, and I'm part of a lot of peer groups and peer discussions, roundtables, that kind of thing. And the cross-function conversations that we're having internally are, probably long overdue, I think, because it is siloed off, and it's easy to get there because you have one group handshaking off to another, and they just kind of manage their lane, they manage their process, and when they check the box and it's off their list, they're on to the next, right? It's just this machine that's been created. So, but sharing ideas, and like I said, I think this is the messiest part of the entire repo the repossession is step one of the remarketing process. You can't remarket a car until you repo it. So I think this is the noisiest part, because you have all three hands are touching and pulling and pushing and get it there, no, keep it here, right? Because when you move that vehicle to the auction too early, it impacts the conversation that the servicing group has getting that customer back in their car. Is that customer more apt to get back in that car when it's 200 or 300 miles away versus when it's down the street? But then we also have to be considerate of that repo agent's lot and letting that car sit there and take up that space. So it's just this delicate dance and balance that, COVID contributed to it, right? We all know the numbers. We've all rattled it off. The industry is down. Repo industry is down by the providers that are in the space. So that means less parking spaces to store cars, and there's more volume, now than there was during COVID. So, and we're up 20% year over year from last year, were some of the numbers being thrown around at some industry conferences and stuff. So I think it's just this perfect storm that has got us to where we're at. And we're all going to have to put our heads together to dig this out. But there is a solution out there, and I think it's a solution that puts money in the right, the right channels and the right, participants. And there's an answer. We're searching for it. I think my peers in the industry, just through conversation, they're searching for it too. So, but we're all taking step one, right?
I think I know the picture pretty well from the ground up, but Brian, I would really like to learn more from the top down, from where the lender and the auction meet the financial picture of this car as it connects to boots on the ground. And if there's a way that not only me learning it can make interesting content, but beneficial to the process, that would be what I offer up as. That's what I would like.
Well, let me just throw out, Vaughn, the video that you and your colleagues in the recovery industry put together for the North American Repo Summit was, it may not seem like a big deal to you, but it was a big deal to me.
Yeah.
And it was really, really eye-opening about all the effort and the care that needs to happen within the recovery process. I thought that was absolutely outstanding. And I think if similar videos were produced in different parts of this industry, I think that would be helpful too. Maybe there's a separate one for transport. Maybe there's a separate one for auto finance companies, just because I think those are easy to share with other people. We can have discussions here, but unless there's that understanding is somehow gets into the heads of our operations people, things don't change as much as we'd like them to change.
It has totally. And Vaughn, I want to see this video. Dave, I had a note. Get a hold of the video. Now I know what video it is. Vaughn, I need to get that video. We all need to get that video. And these consumable bites, right? Short videos. It's actually been my focus lately. I know, hard to believe. But trying to get pull short videos out of this. Actually, I wrote down a time code of you talking about 15 minutes ago, Dave. That's the next YouTube short. It's going to be coming out really soon. But that's that's, I think, one of the things that will help is these educational nuggets and these conversations. But this really is a big one. Not only is it at the bottom, but the lender, the auction, the repo, the transport, the technology. We didn't even talk about auto IMS.
No. Yeah.
Okay. Good one, Jay. We won't, right? Okay, we won't. We'll save that one for the next show.
Teaser. You're
That's
such a
the
pro.
teaser.
That's the
I
teaser.
know, that was so good. Been working on that all day. Renee and I have a meeting tomorrow, everybody, surprise, about this, and so we hope to have more info soon. Dave, you teased it up at the beginning of this. This really is such a hot topic, and it's got such momentum that we're curious to see what happens with it next. And so I don't want to keep everybody all night. I can't. By federal law, I can't. It's 8:30 Central Time. That means we've been here an hour. Thanks, everybody, so very much for agreeing to do this and be a part of it. Dave, thanks for those great notes in November. Renee, thanks for being so determined about this. Brian, thank you for standing up in the audience and contributing. Jordan, thank you for helping take the, software piece by the horns. And Vaughn, thank you for your passion as always.
Yes.
So, really appreciate everybody. We'll be in touch soon.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
Have a good night.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Bye. Great show, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care.
Awesome. Really great. Appreciate it. That was awesome. Oh, that's the thumbnail. All right. Wow, cool. Great stuff in the live chat, everybody. Thank you for commenting. See if I can read direct dispatch to the preferred vetted transport company is a great idea. And it's not a brand new idea. The repo lanes. We talk about all kinds of stuff on this channel, but I don't think it's been lassoed. It's something that one of the things we talk about on Thursdays with dispatching and logistics is that the outreach of those who have the loads, all capitals, those who have the loads, post the loads and get them moved. But what about, I don't know, am I expecting too much? Isn't there a way to find the carrier before just posting it out into the ether? Are there not enough carriers to contact directly? Have lanes not been built? Have we lost good carriers? Where have all the good carriers gone? I don't know. And at the same time, I hear we have 20,000 carriers. Well, if you have 20,000 carriers, you shouldn't even need to post that thing. Whatever. I don't know. I just know that on the transport side of the equation, I can go on and on about what I think some of the pitfalls are. And it's great to have experts and compadres that can speak about their side of the fence, because there seems to be like 5 sides of the fence on this thing. I guess that's why it makes it so complicated. But it was Old Habits Die Hard, episode 350 on ATI Auto Business, that really got me going. Thank you all so much. Thank you for One Auction View, Murphy Auto Transport Services, Superflow Systems, and Auction V Commerce, and the stellar panel, Dave Sutton, Renee Lowe, Jordan Sawalka, Brian Russell, and Vaughn Clemens. Thank you all so much for your time tonight. Let us know how we can help. Send me an email, autotransportintel@gmail.com. Join us on Thursday on Dispatching Industry Logistics. But change the names of the shows. We are going to talk about at noon on Central. We're talking about new carriers trying to get signed up with brokers. Oh my gosh. You thought repo was trouble. Wow. New carriers. Man, talk about a race to the bottom. That one's tough. We'll see you on Thursday, or check out the shorts, or nudge me on LinkedIn. Let me know how I can help. I'm Jay at ATI Auto Business. I'll see you in a social media post soon. Thanks a lot, everybody. Good night.